Hello and welcome to PondHub with Tim, the next in the new pond playlist. This week I'm weighing up the pros and cons of using a preformed pond. Over the last couple of weeks, you've seen me moving towards creating a new toad pond. I've decided its size and I've decided its location. Now I need to decide how I'm going to build it. There are a number of options available, which I'll be considering in a couple of videos. Today I'm focusing on the preformed pond idea. Basically, a pond is a container which holds water. Without doubt, the simplest and easiest way to achieve a waterproof container in your garden is buy a preformed waterproof container and put it in your garden. And that is the simplest pond that you can do. Now, I have recently seen some lovely little ponds at the RHS Sandringham Flower Show 2026. In particular, B. Tanner's Do One Thing for Wildlife garden, which was just a simple little sink which she planted beautifully and surrounded by beautiful planting. There are a few decisions that you would need to make if you're going to go down the preformed pond route. One, do you buy a purpose-built plastic form pond which is kind of designed to look like a natural pond, or do you go for a different shape? Do you use an old sink, a bowl, a tub, a barrel? Literally anything. An old wheelbarrow can be turned into a pond. So you choose deliberate plastic shape, another container. The next thing you need to decide is, are you going to have a standing pond where you freestand your shape, or are you going to dig it into the ground? And both have their advantages and disadvantages. A standing pond, definitely the easiest thing you can possibly do. It's easy to move if you move house. It's also, you can have more of a design feature. I think if you're going for an interesting object that you're filling up with water, you really do want to be able to see the object. The disadvantages for me are the access for wildlife. Basically, you need to build a ramp up the outside of the pond and a ramp inside the pond so that amphibians in particular can get in and out. Now, if you don't have a ramp, you will certainly attract some insect life, and you can obviously plant beautifully in a little pond, but it's going to be much harder to get frogs into a pond which doesn't have access and exit points. Obviously, when choosing the location of your container pond, if you're standing above ground, I would refer to my last video on location, and I would get it in place before you put the water in, because it's going to get quite heavy quite quickly. And I would also say that you probably want a depth of at least 30 centimeters to protect it from freezing, but go a little bit deeper if you can. The decision to dig in a preformed pond will give you something which has a more natural look to it, more natural edges, and will give you greater access for toads and frogs and newts that will be able to get in and out of that pond much easier. And you can plant for cover for those animals as well. So probably better for wildlife. The problem, of course, is the effort that goes into digging and leveling a preformed pond. You're also very limited in terms of the shape. You are tied to a fixed shape. You can't change it, you can't alter it. And finally, with preformed ponds, if they get damaged, if they split, they're near impossible to repair. So you will be looking at replacing the whole thing. So, preformed ponds, I don't think I'm going to go there with my toads. The main reason being that, as I said in last week's video, toads want depth. They prefer depth for spawning, and so getting something which is preformed preformed, which is going to have the depth I require, is going to be quite difficult and quite a nightmare to dig in, because you have to get your hole exactly to the shape of the preformed pond, and that in itself is quite challenging. So there we are, the preformed pond, and why I'm not going to be using a preformed pond for my new toad pond. In the next episode, I'm going to be considering a couple of the more drastic construction of options available to me.